Terence, are you there?
Yes,
Okay. You've heard about the meetings that took place in Europe and Switzerland and also Brussels.
yes,
And have you seen some of the commentaries out there? Valentine Eben gave an interview. Have you watched that?
yes, I did.
So what's your general take about this whole issue?
Well, I think as Valentine stated, the purpose of the meeting, it seems to have been organized by an entity sponsored by France and the Republic of Cameroon. And according to Valentine's analysis, they wanted to create a paper trail in order to use to further their lobbying efforts on behalf of the French and Cameroon regime. So I think they want to use it as a political tool in the context of what is happening in the United States of America. And I think they want to use it in order to influence any policy adaptations that the United States may plan to make regarding what's happening in Cameroon. That's my take after watching the shows, and I tend to agree with the analysis that Barry made.
Okay. Let me ask you one of the things that when you talk to some of the people who were there and you ask them about the scantiness and the indefinition of language on the piece, they kept saying, "Oh, we're supposed to go to these things. We're supposed to go to the talks with non-conditions, and so that's why you never heard any talk about independence or anything like that." Let me ask you something about negotiations without conditions, and I will put you a scenario and see what you think about it. Okay? Now, my understanding is that when the United States, for example, or some of the diplomats who have called for negotiation without conditions, that is a condition they are imposing on La République du Cameroun, because that is the country, or that is the entity that has a license to kill, and that license is to kill in when it is legal to do so. Governments have powers to do a lot of things, and so when they start saying we are going to come to that conference, but XYZ is not going to be included, then those who are trying to say, please get together with quote unquote your citizens that you are fighting with, and which we think that you are burning their villages, you are target killing them, you are looting their properties. So we want you to go to a meeting with them unconditionally. Does that unconditionality also apply to the people who are defending what I will call inalienable rights? Because inalienable rights, and I have a dictionary meaning which I looked, it says inalienable rights are rights that are unable to be taken away from or given away by the possessor. So the person who has that right, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if we want to give those examples, those are not rights that somebody can come and take away from them, or has the right to come and take away from them, or that they can give to anybody. So if the people of Ambazonia claim that is what they are fighting for, does that unconditionality in negotiations also include them?
Could you you said a lot. Could you just ask a question so I can respond to, because you made like a statement?
The question is
the question.
The question is, when the international community says there should be negotiations without conditions, does that apply to without preconditions? I'm sorry, without preconditions. Does that apply to the people of Ambazonia the same as it applies to the government of La République du Cameroun?
What we are engaging is a decolonization effort, right?
Yes.
And the law is on our side as far as that is concerned. International law is on our side. And that's why the only people trying to impose conditions on dialogue are the people who are in violation of international law. They are trying to say that let's talk, and let's not talk about aspects of international law that recognizes us as a state.
Yes.
We say let's talk about everything, including aspects of international law that recognizes us as a state.
Yes, yes. So that is why. So the whole idea of come without any preconditions is more applicable to La République du Cameroun than the Ambazonian people, because they're not really claiming anything other than their inalienable rights.
La République du Cameroun and France are the one resisting that. They want to impose preconditions.
Yes.
The Prime Minister went to Bamenda and said, we're going to talk about everything except separation or whatever. Atanganji was in Europe and talked about not discussing the form of the state, which is their traditional refrain, so that's neither there nor here. No, the Ambazonian people, I think the leadership of the Ambazonian people have been very confident in saying that, yeah, we're going to meet with these people, and talk about everything, because they're confident that the international law is on their side.
I thank you for helping in clarifying that, because I brought that topic because some of the people who were in Brussels are trying to say that, well, the document was not clear because it was supposed to be negotiations without preconditions, as though stating that you have been colonized, you want your freedom is that's why I brought in the whole thing about inalienable rights, because those are not preconditions. They're just rights that when people violate, they violate.
I think the attitude everybody has adopted is that talk without any preconditions. Let's go and look at the history of these two peoples. Look at the law that applied to these two peoples or these two states without any preconditions, and let adjudicate.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Let me ask you another question.
Yeah. So that's pretty cut and dry, right?
Yes. This is another question. Does the whole thing about precondition prevent the people of Ambazonia from stating their situation clearly?
No, it doesn't prevent them. I think we've already stated our situation clearly. And the leadership, at least the leadership in jail, has stated that condition very clearly. Independence or resistance forever. What else? How else can you be clear about it?
Yes.
And I think the vast majority of Ambazonians today, that is their position. Independence or resistance forever. I think the conduct of the French and the Cameroonese in responding to the grievances that were tabled by the lawyers and then teachers and then the rest of the Ambazonian people, I think has solidified that position of independence. So that is something that needs to be stated, which is understood by everybody, even those who are not supporting that position. They understand that that's what we are asking for. And
yes.
That's what this struggle is all about.
Yes.
The British understand that, the Americans understand that, the French understand that, the Cameroonians understand that this struggle is about independence and nothing else. They may not say it, but that's what they understand, and that's what those who are making the ultimate sacrifice on ground zero, that's what they are stating.
Now, I have another quick question for you. The organization that brought people to Brussels, it's not coming out publicly. The organization that brought people to Switzerland is not coming out publicly either. But some people have told me that the organization that brought people to Brussels will be the European Institute for Peace, and that is an organization that is attached to the European governments, and it is sponsored by European governments. At least from my research on them says that it was sponsored by European governments, and their hope was that after 3 years of sponsoring them, they can now go and get money from donors and all of that. But it's clear that it's an organization that's attached to the EU government or governments. The one that brought people to Switzerland, Le Monde writes very clearly that it was sponsored by La République, and their hope is that they would use that to organize the diaspora or negotiate with the diaspora. I don't understand, but they're trying to use it to help them with the diaspora. So, is there do you find it appropriate, or do you find it an advantage to the Ambazonian people that all the so-called leaders in the diaspora flock to go and sit and listen to these organizations, or allow them or subject themselves to the influence of these organizations for any reason?
No.
Can you expand on that, please?
I'm going off of what I know as explained by Vali and yourself during your show. That it seems to me that there's a lobbying hand behind this development. That you have a lobbying firm being paid for by the Republic of Cameroon, who has engaged NGOs and other organizations in Europe and possibly in the United States to play a trick on the American government that is currently debating what policy they should have towards the ongoing conflict in Cameroon and Ambazonia. Right?
Yes.
So they do not have the interest of the Ambazonian people by going to Geneva or going to Brussels and corralling, people who, as you stated, may well be citizens of European and European countries and the United States, and having these people speak as if they're speaking on behalf of the Ambazonian people. The other thing I want to address regarding some of the institutions that you mentioned is that it is known within international political circles and in international mediation and negotiation strategies, that is, the French specifically, they've perfected the trick of using kind of multilateral organization in order to achieve French interests, French goals, and French objectives. So when you start talking about the European Institute of Peace or whatever, I see the French hand in there. If you look at what happened in Cote d'Ivoire and what happened in Libya, it was the French who were the driver, but they never used the French state as the instrument to achieve their goals. They used the United Nations and they used the African Union. So when you start hearing, and you've seen the Francophonie, they've gone there to CPR, you've seen the Commonwealth, they've gone there to CPR. We know the French ambassador basically has lunch, breakfast, and dinner at Diaz plate. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what the people of Ambazonia want has already been expressed. It is known by everybody in the world that this is what these people want. It is known that this is why they are fighting and dying, and this is why the Republic of Cameroon is killing babies. And any initiative that doesn't respect the fact that we're determined to have an independence and to have justice and to live within a territory that has been demarcated, not by us, but by international law, then they are not serious. And anybody who entertains such an initiative is obviously not serious, in my opinion.
Okay, let me ask you. This question is related, but it's not associated with. Let's assume that there was no lobbying firm that La Repubblica has hired that may or may not be behind all these gymnastics going on. Let's assume that the Belgians or the Swiss on their own are negotiating, are initiating this. Would it still be wise for Ambazonians to go and allow Europeans, either the Belgians or the Swiss, be the ones to coach them, or do they actually need coaching to go and negotiate what they want?
No, they do not need any coaching. I think within the Ambazonian people, both at home and abroad, you have Ambazonians who are competent in negotiations. We have lawyers of international repute who do not need any coaching in order to engage in negotiation. I do not need any coaching to negotiate about my own interests. You know, I may need technical advice, but I do not need coaching to negotiate something about which I clearly have expressed a desire to want. I think the Ambazonian people overwhelmingly, and I think the rest of the world acknowledges this, that we as a people and as a territory has been annexed, being subjected to colonial rule, and want to put an end to it. I do not think anybody of good faith will quote-unquote train our people to understand any better a position that has been overwhelmingly expressed by these same people and by the Ambazonian people in general.
Okay. Now, you did say that you may need technical advice. Would you accept technical advice from the Europeans?
No, I will not accept technical advice from anybody other than Ambazonia. You know, it's one thing to have a mediator who may be a third party. It may be an American or a European or an Asian or whatever. But no, we want our ambassador. 60 years after independence, we have capable and competent people to walk into any room in this world and speak with their heads held up, without anybody holding their hand. We do not need any NGO. We do not need any white man. I'm sorry to use that word to babysit us into negotiating with genocidaires.
Thank you. I'm gonna let me end this by just asking you how do you feel about this whole atmosphere going on right now? If you do, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's sad, and I'm expressing my opinion based on what I know from what you guys exposed. You asked a lot of pertinent questions. Who is paying for this? Who is feeding these people? You know, where are they staying? You better believe that every room that they enter is bugged. They're under surveillance all the time. They're being recorded. I believe that. You know, I just think it's sad that, you know, we've made such bold pronouncements, such confident pronouncement about our desire to be free, and then to read the document that Badi read during your interview with him, and none of those bold statements are put on paper. I think it's really sad. It's sad. I don't know what other word to use. But I think it's also a positive development because it is a lesson for our people to judge the value of those who purport to be their leaders or those who purport to want to lead them. This is what they would do when the first opportunity to stand face to face with the adversary is provided them, the fold. So we have to be very vigilant in those who we entrust. We have to be careful about what we hear from those who make loud noises, and we really need to judge people by what they do when the stakes are very high. The stakes are not even that high, and we're looking at people who are capitulating. You're capitulating even before the referee blows the whistle for kickoff. It's a sad development.
All of this is happening because there's so many groups with so many people out there vying to be the leader of this struggle. So there are very many people making noise. How do we as Ambazonians make sure this doesn't happen again? Is there a way for us to make sure this doesn't happen again? Is there a way for us to organize ourselves when the real negotiations come?
Well, the adversary is obviously taking advantage of the fact that we have all of these groups and all of these people who've made enough noise to be considered quote-unquote leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that we can stop individuals, a group of individuals, from projecting themselves and having followers. I think the only thing which is now legitimate in this revolution or in this struggle are the boys and girls or men and women who are paying the ultimate price on the ground and in trying to defend themselves and their families and their villages and their towns and so on. That is the only reason that these people in the diaspora were herded into this meeting. If the Amber boys were not doing what they are doing, nobody would give a damn about these people in the diaspora. So at the end of the day, the people on ground zero, those who are paying the ultimate price, they are the ones who will determine who will speak for them. They are the ones who will give legitimacy to the leader who would speak for us, for the Ambazonian people. But there is no way, I don't think of any way that we can tell X, Y, or Z to stop projecting themselves. Then we're never going to get that. But I think there's going to be a circumstance where development in ground zero would necessitate that certain forces down there designate somebody that will speak on their behalf, and that maybe those third parties that are interested in really getting a just solution will accept as the legitimate authority.
Okay. So what I understand that is that somehow Ambazonians will have to find a way to constitute themselves for the negotiations.
Yeah, I think it will be driven from ground zero, one way or the other.
Yes. Now, I have another question to ask you.
But before you ask, let me finish my thought.
Okay.
It has to be driven from ground zero, one way or the other, because what these developments in Switzerland, in Geneva, and Brussels has shown is that the people that had projected themselves as competent stakeholders have failed in the first trial. They've gone in and signed a document which is almost counter-revolutionary. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So here's my question. The international community is interested in Ambazonia right now because of the crimes La Republic has committed. My understanding is that a country loses its independence when it has violated human rights. And talking to Valia, I understood that there's a threshold. So the international community actually has a standard by which I think it's like 500,000 people displaced or something like that. At that point, the UN will come in, or the international community will come in. So my question to you is, and I'm asking you this question because something that, because of the disorganization of the Ambazonian people, or because of all the rowdiness and many groups posturing around, it does not help the case of the Ambazonian people to get international help. Does international help and international intervention, is it dependent on how the Ambazonian people in the diaspora, for that matter, organize themselves?
No, it's not dependent on that. As Value rightly said, a country loses its sovereignty when it engages in what crimes of war, and there are certain technical thresholds which apply. So no, it doesn't matter whether we are all under one leadership or under all these leadership of rivals as it is right now. When it reaches that point, they're gonna step in, and I think one of our lawyers had kind of given a scenario where the territory may actually be under international administration. They may actually have to intervene, get out the aggressive colonial forces of France and the Republic of Cameroon, and put in a neutral force and try to stabilize the place, and then actually administrate the place as an international concern and then create a scenario for the Amazonian people to organize and govern themselves.
In that explanation, you already preempted the question I wanted to ask you, because one of the reasons why some of these organizations are so focused on challenging each other and undermining each other is because, that's my assumption, is because they believe, and that's why they're forming governing councils and interim governments and all kinds of organizations. As I think what they believe is that they will go down to Boya and become the government of Ambazonia. And I think the scenario you just painted so can you expand on that, just so that people know? I don't know that people heard what you said. Can you expand on that? So all this infighting would actually end up in naught, because nobody who has been living in the United States or in Europe for decades is going to go down there and suddenly become the ambassador of a new created Ambazonia, or become the health secretary or the financial secretary. Can you expand that so that people get that into their head, and let our focus be the focus to get out the enemy rather than trying to go and govern the territory?
Well, naturally, I think all of the focus should be on liberation, right?
Yes.
And I think for the people who are facing the day-to-day brunt of the colonizer, right? Their focus is on liberation. Their focus is on living to see tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And when I use the word liberation, I'm talking about liberation from death. Struggling to live another day because the enemy is chasing you, right?
Yes.
And also in the larger sense, liberation of the homeland,
Yes.
So, so that's the focus, right?
Yes.
There's and I think those are the people that I think at the end of the day, right,
Yes.
will be given the mandate by the Amazonian people. But if we're talking about, if we want to kind of project how things may unfold, you know, none of these groups, even the ones that are fighting on ground zero, have the type of capability to protect the territory.
Yes.
Even if all of that really moves out. So you need a massive force, right, that has the ability to protect the territory and create the enabling environment for the Amazonian people to constitute themselves as a state. So going back now to 1954,
yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Where, we may have to, we may obviously do things differently, but we're going back to that scenario of self-government, but we need that international protection. When we're in 1954, we're still under UK trusteeship, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I don't know how the trusteeship will look like in 2019 or 2020 or whenever it's going to happen. There's going to be something like that, and the Amazonian people on ground zero, they will be the ones to determine who would lead them, just like they did in 1954 for Indeli and in 1958 for Frontier.
Yes.
Right? These
yes.
people were executives, but they were still under UK trusteeship. So that's what I'm envisioning. So it's ultimately the verdict of the Amazonian people on ground zero.
Yes.
Who will determine, But I do envision that, especially given the catastrophe that we're witnessing, with over 500,000 internally displaced persons, if those numbers are accurate, I do envision a situation where maybe an international presence will be necessary in order to create an environment for us to move finally into self-government and independence.
Yes. When I listen to the speeches at the Washington conference, I think Professor Anyangwe expressed something like that too.
A protective humanitarian intervention, either by the United Nations itself, or if not do it, to authorize a state to do that. That protective humanitarian intervention means that the United Nations force, peacekeeping force, will move into a territory, and that automatically means French family forces should get out, and the administration get out. Once their forces have gone out, the administration will go out. With a transitional period, the UN itself will be in charge of administration. It happened in East Timor, it happened in Namibia, and so on. And the purpose for this is to let in humanitarian aid to flow. Humanitarian agents will come in, build temporary tents, people can just start coming back gradually. After a period which we agreed to between our people and the UN itself, it may be 1 year, maybe 2 years, when the situation has stabilized, we work at everything. Then the power handed back to Amazonian people. This process is independent of the talks we're talking about, because the talks can go on for even 1 year. You must realize this. They may even go on for 1 year. When the South Sudanese were negotiating with this thing, they were in Addis Ababa for 6 to 8 months. Somebody has to foot that bill. Surely they won't ask us to foot that bill. Never. We will never foot that bill. Well, my friends, the facilitators will either foot that bill, or better still, French Cameroon have been stealing all our resources. We'll have to foot that bill for us to stay there, to make about security, to make about the stay there for all that period, until this agreement is reached. So I think we must have this very clear in mind as a main priority. We must advocate for protective humanitarian intervention in Amazonia.
And I have been the whole time saying that the government that will rule Amazonia will be a government that is voted by the people of Amazonia, one man, one vote. The ANC fought for over 90 years to They fought apartheid for over 90 years, but they never claimed to be the government of South Africa. And after they had defeated the apartheid system, they went through a vote to become the government of South Africa. And so our people in the West need to focus on defeating the enemy rather than posturing and hoping that they will go down to the territory and become the government of the territory. That's not going to happen. It will still come down to one man, one vote, and how you perform in liberating our people will help you. Will help you. But I can tell you that I haven't seen a situation where people left the West and went back to go and become the government of their country. Remember during the Iraqi war, the Americans were promoting Chilabi. You remember that name?
Yeah, but you could. I mean, I've seen Charles Taylor done the same thing, but Charles Taylor went into the bush and fought. So if you want to do that, but the thing is that Charles Taylor had the backing of the French. He had the backing of the Burkina Faso and all of those French satellite states around West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know we're making a digression here.
No, it's not a diversion, because I think you're trying to state how somebody who wants to go down and take it by force should. They mean they have to defeat it militarily on the ground.
Yeah. So if you wanna leave the West and wanna go and install yourself in Boya as a strong man, so to speak, then you go the Charles Taylor route.
Yeah.
Right? You find international partners that are willing to support you and sponsor you, and you build an army and march into Boya and city that Republic. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's one way of doing it, but I don't see anybody around here who is ready for that.
All right, my brother. I think you did help us understand, and actually you threw more light than I was really expecting in terms of what's happening now and what is foreseen to happen in the future. And I hope that clarifies our thinking about this, so that we can act right now in order to make what seems to be the trajectory right now become true.
Yeah, I hope those who have made mistakes will correct those mistakes. I think to err is human, so that at the core of everything we do should be, the well-being of our people and the liberation of our people. We need to put an end to this annexation and colonization of our territory, and if we have that as the driving force in our little actions, I think we'll not make a lot of these mistakes that are being made right now.
Absolutely, and I'm going to end this by stating that we have allowed the Nigerians to come and govern us. We have allowed the people of our Republic to come and ruin everything for us. Let us work together with one focus to make this the last fight, so that we win this fight and go home. I want to thank you for participating in this, in helping us understand the situation better. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.